This is the story of how a deputy governor's daughter was killed and used for money rituals in 2018 by a young man she dated for nearly 3 years. A case where the killer was caught and arrested and told one of the biggest lies you would have ever heard in an attempt to get away with murder. Miss Adenike Khadija Oluboyo was a 25-year-old final year student of Adekunle Ajasin University in Ondo State, and she was the daughter of the former deputy governor at the time in Ondo State in 2018. She was said to have been in a long-time relationship with 27-year-old Sheidu Shakiru Adeyemi, who was a former student of the same school. Adeyemi lived in his father's compound with his family, but he had his own room that was attached to the building but accessible without having to go through the main house. Adeyemi's room was accessible on its own, more like an apartment, more like a face you and face me complex, where if he had a guest, they could easily go into his apartment without having to go through the sitting room or go through other parts of the house. And it was not unusual for Khadija to pay him a visit since they were dating and everyone knew that they were dating, including Adeyemi's parents. So it wasn't a surprise. So around the 3rd or 4th of July in 2018, Khadijat visited Adeyemi. And in retrospect, it's very possible that Adeyemi had been the one to have called her over spontaneously, because clearly he seemed to have a bigger plan for her, or let's say with her. And when Khadijat came to visit Adeyemi, everyone saw her. Adeyemi's father, siblings, I think neighbors saw her coming. And again, it was not unusual, so she went into his room and everyone minded their business. But the problem is, that was the last time anyone saw her, live at least. That was the last moment anybody would have seen Khadijat, the moment she went into her boyfriend's bedroom. The next morning, during morning devotion, it was said when Adeyemi was having the family devotion with his siblings and parents, the father asked him, "What's up? Where is Khadijat? Is she not going to join us?" Because they didn't see her leave, so they assumed she was still in the house. Adeyemi is a big man, 27, so it is not something strange that the girl would have slept over his place. Probably wouldn't have been the first time. So the father was hoping the girl would join them, but Adeyemi told them that she had left, and they were like, "Okay, we didn't see her leave. I hope she didn't leave late in the night, because that would have been very wrong if she did." But Adeyemi assured them that she left at the appropriate time and that he even escorted her back to where she was coming from, and that he even escorted her back to school or a lodge in school where she was probably mostly coming from. Now, 2 days has passed. People haven't seen Khadijat. Her classmates were worried, friends were worried. A call was pulled through to the parents, and they were like, "Okay, where did she go to?" It's not clear who they had asked, but people would have guessed that she had gone to meet her boyfriend. But clearly, Adeyemi has been telling people that he too hadn't seen her. And being the deputy governor's daughter, if anyone was going to assume the worst, they would have assumed that a group of people might have kidnapped her to demand ransom. And so I want to guess the family were waiting for the phone call, because that would have been their only guess. Who would have thought that a poor 27-year-old boy whose father is a shoemaker would be the one to hold captive their daughter? And it's not so clear if the deputy governor knew who Khadijat was dating, but I would want to assume they did. But even the financial status, because Khadijat was clearly from a wealthy background, her father was a deputy governor, Adeyemi is a poor boy from a poor background whose father is a shoemaker. So who would have guessed he would have the mind to hurt the deputy governor's daughter? Is he not afraid? I would want to assume no one would have seen what was about to play out. He wouldn't dare touch the girl. Or would he? 5 days later, after Khadijat visited Adeyemi, a bad smell began disturbing the peace. However, it was only one person's peace that was being disturbed, and that was Adeyemi's peace in his own bedroom. You see, like we've already made clear, Khadijat never left Adeyemi's room. All this while, she was still in his bedroom, dead and buried under his bed. For 5 days, Adeyemi has been sleeping on that same bed where his girlfriend was buried underneath. For 5 whole days in that same room, going on about his life like nothing had happened, like a ghost wasn't in his room. The only problem is he clearly didn't dig enough earth to put the girl all the way down to 6 feet. So it was a shallow grave. And when her body began to go through the natural process of decomposition, it began to emit a bad smell that was very uncomfortable to bear, especially in the room where Adeyemi was sleeping. Clearly, the smell had begun earlier, but it wasn't as intense as it was going to get. The thing is, or the source claimed that Adeyemi had gone to meet a Babalawo who told him to kill someone he loves, bury them under his bed in his bedroom, and sleep on the grave for 6 or 7 days. And he was doing just fine the first 5 days. However, after the 5th day, he realized he couldn't take it anymore because the smell was really unbearable. So he got frustrated, and almost like the ghost of Khadijat began to haunt him, because when he couldn't take the smell anymore, apparently his senses left his head. Not that he went mad, but he decided that, okay, he was going to evacuate this young girl's remains. So he was going to dig out the grave and put her body in a bag and throw it away. That is a plan you would want to do somewhere in the middle of the night. That is a plan that somebody who is in their right senses to do evil would maybe orchestrate quietly and smoothly. But for Adeyemi's case, he just couldn't bear it. Before he knew it, he had called his younger brother and told his younger brother that Khadijat is dead and buried in his room, and that he should help him get a sack bag so he can put her remains and trash it. Just like that. And him thinking the brother was going to help him in that plan, the brother ran quickly to tell their father. I'm guessing the father was at his shop. And when the boy told the father was like, get to the police. The father didn't even want to make time to come and check it out himself. He told the boy, go and inform the police. Sources even said the father was the one who went himself to inform the police that that was the situation happening in their house. And instantly, the police swooped into action. Quickly, the deputy governor's daughter that has been missing is in your son's bedroom under his bed. And when the police came, it was said they saw Adeyemi in the act of trying to dispose the body. He had already dug the grave. He had already tried to put the body in the bag. And that was when he was caught, handcuffed, and arrested. And when they questioned him why and how he killed this girl, you would not believe the lie this man told. I'm sure he must have thought of it, and I'm sure that was the same lie he told his brother and his father, hoping that, they will most likely be on his side. But this turned out to be the most dumbest, stupidest, childish, infantile lie that you would have ever heard. Now, when Adeyemi was questioned, because he was eventually arraigned in court, he was asked what happened to Khadijat. And he said he was not the one who killed her, that 2 men were the ones who had come into his apartment and had killed the girl. In the story, he claimed that Khadijat had come with her project work for him to help. Since he was already a graduate and he had more experience to help her with her project, he was also doing the same thing, like he was helping Khadijat with her final year project. And he claimed that on the day Khadijat came to visit him on that 3rd or 4th of July, they were together. Eventually, Khadijat called 2 strange men that he himself had not seen, and they came to his apartment. They entered into the room, and he said that Khadijat was fond of inviting men over to his apartment. That when the 2 guys came, he left and went to get something to eat. And when he came back, he saw one of them on top Khadijat and the other one pointed a gun on his head, told him to keep quiet or they will kill him. And he claimed that Khadijat told him to cooperate, that they will not hurt him. Eventually, the 2 men finished what they wanted to do with Khadijat, and then they killed Khadijat, and they told Adeyemi to go outside and get grave diggers or a shovel to dig a grave in his room where they would bury her. He said he was so scared for his life. He was afraid that they would kill him. So he ran outside, got the shovel, came back, dug the earth in his room, and that's where they buried the girl, and they left. And he was so scared to tell anyone because he knows no one would believe him, maintaining his stand that he was not the one who killed Khadijat, but the 2 boys that she had invited into his own room. And that was his excuse. That was his lie. That was his defense. It was pretty much telling the police to go and look for the 2 boys. He does not know their names. He does not know their face. But the only problem is this story had a lot of loopholes. People could see the loophole from a distance. Even a blind person could have seen the loophole in his story. The first problem with the story was that no one saw these 2 guys coming. His father or siblings did not see 2 guys coming, nor did they see 2 guys leave, especially after Khadija had just visited him. So, who else saw the 2 boys? Were the 2 boys ghosts that nobody else in the compound saw them enter and saw them leave? And then when he claimed that the boys told him to go outside and get a shovel or a grave digger, because they were pointing a gun in his head. Was the gun also an invincible gun? Because if he left his room where they pointed him the gun, I don't think the gun was still following him on his head when he went outside. That would have been a good opportunity for him to run, call for help, or call the police. But when he left his room to get the digger or the shovel to dig the grave, no gun was on his head. The culprit was still in his room, because I don't imagine they followed him with a gun in his head all the way to where the shovel was. Many people would have seen it, but that was not the case. So in that loophole, he had a chance to call the police or call for help, but he didn't, because clearly that story was false. No two men came to do such acts. He did it all by himself. And even after the men had left, supposedly, he had enough time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. You had to wait for her smell to chase you out before you told or spoke to anyone. Clearly, his story did not hold water in court. He was instantly charged, tried, and the following year, he was sentenced to death by hanging for the killing of Khadijat. His brother and father both testified against him in the court. They were not up for the bullshit. I mean, they would pray for him, but they were not there to cover him up or support him, because they knew what he had done was over the top. At the time when the story came out then, this pointed a light in money ritual and Yahoo Plus, where a lot of people were telling young girls, be careful of rich boys, be careful of boys who have money. You don't know what they can use you and do. Stick with your poor boyfriend. Stick with your broke boyfriend. He's going to get rich one day. And then on the news, a poor shoemaker's son kills a governor's daughter, pretty much a governor's daughter, and used her for money ritual. This was a girl that could have done so much better without a DME. This was a girl who did not lack money, who decided to give the poor boy a chance, some kind of Disney fairy tale story, and she ended up getting killed. Even in court, when the case was being analyzed, the authorities spotted a unique change in Khadija's body. They said the hair on her head and the ones on her private areas had been shaved off, which indicated that this was clearly for money ritual purposes. So did the two men who came to his house to do that do the shaving? And what did he use the hair for? Clearly this was a case of money rituals, and they know that Adeyemi was the one who most likely did it. If Khadija wanted to bring 2 boys, she could afford a good hotel in Ondo State. She wouldn't want to bring the 2 boys to her boyfriend's, a shoemaker's son boyfriend's house in the slums. I'm sure she had her own place. She had her own apartment. She had money to get a good hotel room to have a rendezvous with 2 boys. So his story was just very childish and very stupid as much as he looks, and wasn't even considered in court. It was trashed in, and he too was also trashed into prison awaiting his death sentence. More like awaiting his death, because he pretty much got the sentence. So what do you guys think about this story? This is one story, again, like I said, that makes a lot of people feel like when it comes to money ritual, doesn't matter if they are rich or poor, anyone can be a culprit or a perpetrator, and anyone can kill anyone because of money, regardless of whether or not they are poor. So the story or the idea of, oh girls, stick with your poor boyfriend, that could also go sideways. So which would it be? But you guys let me know your thoughts regarding this story. Let me know how you feel. Do you think, because there are some people who still think that DME might be telling the truth, saying that the girl was from a rich home and somebody could have done it in his house to pin it on him, since he's the poor boy who has no defense and, could not get away with it. There are people who strongly believe that Adeyemi was right with the story. Although I'm not one of those, clearly, I call bullshit. But do you guys believe his story? Do you think he is actually innocent? Do you think there's a possibility that other people did it to pin it on him? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Turn on notification button should there be any future updates. You'll be the first to get notified whenever there is a new video. Thank you guys for watching.